is meant by solubility? Solubility is the extent of solute that enter into the solution. Solute means what? Suppose we are going to dissolve some amount of sugar in the water. So sugar is the solute and water is the solvent. So slowly this sugar solute will go into the solution form. Slowly this sugar will start to dissolve, and after some time entirely your sugar will get dissolved. So this is called as solubility, the extent of solute that goes into the solution. And why the solubility is very important? Uh, Sometime when you enter into medical shop, you can see that there are different dosage form. You can see there are some solutions, there are some suspension, emulsion. Likewise, there are various dosage form. And what is the importance of solubility in designing of this dosage form? Solubility is very important factor in designing of the dosage form. How? Suppose if the drug is having very good solubility in the water, then we can dissolve the drug into a water. You will get the clear solution, and you can directly dispense it to the patient. But sometimes drugs are having difficulty in preparing the solution form. Drug is not very easily soluble in the given solvent. So in that cases, we have to take advantage of some surfactant. We have to take an advantage of micromeritics. We can decrease the particle size to increase the solubility, or we can add some complexing agent. We can prepare salt form. So these are uh, various factors by which we can improve the solubility of the given drug product. So if there are some solubility problem, we can choose the solubility enhancement methods. Drug for oral administration should be examined for the solubility, and that's why, so depending on the solubility, drug for oral administration should be examined. So solubility will decides what type of dosage form you can prepare. So it is not basis on it's not based on the interest of any scientist. Suppose anyone interested to prepare solution, so he will decide that I will only prepare solution. Suppose someone is interested to prepare only suspension part, so it is not like that. So this solution, suspension or emulsion, whatever it may be, so it can be prepared only on the basis of solubility profile of the given drug. So solubility and solubilization mechanism provides the basis for formulation work. So pre-formulation solubility studies includes the determination of pKa, pH, solubility profile and common ion effect, effect of temperature, solubilization, partition coefficient, and the dissolution. So all of these studies will help us to prepare the dosage form. pKa, pH. So this will help us to know at what pH the drug is having maximum solubility. Effect of temperature, what is the effect of temperature on the solubility, solubilization, partition coefficient. Then again, by means of partition coefficient, again we come to know on which part your drug is having maximum solubility, whether in the aqueous part or the non-aqueous part. And lastly, the dissolution. So let us study one by one. pKa determination. So what is meant by pKa? It is the dissociation constant of any drug molecules. It is important for the drug capable of ionization within the pH range of 1 to 10. Since the solubility, then absorption can be changed by the pH changes. So pKa determination is mainly useful for the drugs having pH range in between the 1 to 10. How the pKa is useful in the pH range 1 to 10? Because at a particular pH, your drug undergoes dissociation. And by means of dissociation constant, we comes to know how much drug present in ionic form and how much drug present in unionized form. pK means what? It is a dissociation constant. Dissociation constant means what? When a drug undergoes reaction, it dissociates into two forms. First is ionized form and second one is unionized form. And generally for rapid absorption we are expecting unionized part of the drug. Drug must be present maximum in unionized form. So as an example given here, for weakly acidic drug with the pKa value greater than 3, the unionized form present within the acidic content of the stomach, but the drug is ionized predominantly in the neutral media. Here is the example of weakly acidic drug. Weakly acidic drug means those are having the pH less than 5 or 6. So these are the weakly acidic drug. So when this weakly acidic drug enter into your stomach, then the if the pK value greater than 3, then the unionized drug present in your stomach, and if the drug is unionized, then it is rapidly absorbed from your stomach. But if drug enter into your small intestine where there is a starting of the basic pH, at that time the drug is present mostly in ionized form, and ionized form is not absorbable, or it is absorbable to a very less extent from the small intestine or the basic pH. So that if you are having a weakly acidic drug, that must be absorbed from the stomach itself, because at weakly acidic pH the drug will be present in maximum unionized form, and unionized form get rapidly absorbed from the stomach itself. But once the drug enter into basic pH, it will be present in ionized form, and ionized form is not rapidly absorbable as compared to the unionized form. For basic drugs such as erythromycin, which is having pK of 8 to 9, the ionized form is predominant in both stomach and intestine. So in that cases, the absorption will be very slow, because ionized forms are having these are mainly uh, they are aqueous in the nature. Ionized form are aqueous in the nature, and unionized form are uh, oil soluble. Means unionized form can be rapidly absorbed from the oil part of your body, but the ionized form cannot be absorbed rapidly, but it is absorbed to a very less extent. So that's why we are always expecting the unionized part of the any drug. And this pK we can calculate by using the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. So this equation will provide us an idea about how much amount of drug is present in ionized form and how much amount of the drug is present in unionized form. So this is the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, and for acidic compounds the equation is pH equal to pKa plus log of concentration of ionized drug divided by concentration of unionized drug, and for the basic compound pH equal to pKa plus log of concentration of unionized drug divided by ionized drug. So this is the equation of Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. So by this equation you can find out the concentration of ionized and concentration of unionized drug present at a particular pH. So if the concentration of unionized drug is more, then no doubt it will absorb very rapidly as compared to the ionized drug. pK can be determined using the various methods like potentiometric titration method and conductivity, potentiometry, spectroscopy. These are other methods by which we can also find out the pKa value, dissociation constant. Next one is the pH solubility profile and the common ion effect. What is meant by pH and what is meant by common ion effect? The solubility of acidic or basic drug depends on the pKa. As we discussed earlier, the solubility depends on the pKa and pH of the drug. So at that particular pKa and pH, intrinsic solubility for both ionized and unionized drugs are depending. Just a minute. So The solubility of drugs is depend on the pH and pKa, because at the given pH and pKa, your drug will be present in ionized and unionized form. If the drug is present in ionized form, it will not rapidly absorb. If the drug is present in ionized form, it will be rapidly absorbed. So when ionized or salt form of the drug is solubility limiting species in the solution, then concentration of counter ion, that is also called as common ion, is usually the solubility determining factor. So when ionized form is the as we have seen, the ionized form is the having some solubility problem. Unionized form get rapidly absorbed, but the ionized form is having the solubility limiting factor. So how to remove this ionized form from your solution? Simply we can add the common ion. So once we add some common ions, ionized form get precipitate and we can easily separate it out from the unionized form. So for example, in case of water treatment, in case of drinking water, water is allow for the some treatment. What type of treatment? Suppose your water contain high amount of calcium carbonates, which is present in dissolved state, calcium carbonate. So how to remove this calcium carbonate? We can add common ion, that is sodium carbonate. So carbonate becomes the common ion. Once you add the common ion, so because of the common ion effect, calcium carbonate get precipitate and we can separate this calcium carbonate from your water. So in this way, water undergoes treatment to remove the heavy metal ions and the salts like calcium carbonate. For example, the salt of basic amine, that is BH plus Cl negative. Suppose this BH plus is present in ionized form and you want to remove this BH plus from your solution. So how to remove this ionized part? By addition of common ions. So let us consider this reaction BH plus Cl negative. This is the basic amine which is present in salt form. So after dissociation, it will dissociate as BH plus, BH positive plus Cl negative, and where KSP is the total solubility product, which is equal to BH plus Cl negative. And once we add Cl negative as a common ion, once we add the Cl negative, then the total solubility get decreased. BH plus can be easily separate out from the solution, which is present in the ionized form. So in this way, ionized part can be easily separated from the solution by addition of the common ions. Why we are removing the ionized part? Because ionized part is not part of our interest, because it is having very low solubility and it absorbs to a very low extent. That's why we have to remove the ionized part. Then the solubility is also affected by the pH, counter ion concentration, drug concentration, ionic strength, temperature, and the aqueous media composition, etc. etc. For drug doxycycline, which is having pKa of 3.4. So by means of common ion effect, we can remove the ionized part, that is amine hydrochloride salt on the solubility. Suppose the doxycycline present in ionized form, then we can add the amine hydrochloride. So easily, because of common ion effect, ionized part will be completely removed. Then second, the solubility in aqueous medium, which is having pH 2 or less, logarithmically the solubility decrease as a function of pH because of corresponding increase in the chloride ion concentration. So when we are going to add the amine hydrochloride into the doxycycline hydrochloride, so in this case, because of the common ion effect, the chloride ion concentration goes on increasing and we can easily separate out the ionized part. In gastric juice, pH 1 to 2 and chlorine ion concentration, which is equal to 0.1 to 0.15 molar, Doxycycline hydrochloride dihydrate has a solubility of about 4 milligram per ml. In addition to that, the protonated form of doxycycline can form dimeric species. Protonated form means sometimes this protonated form of doxycycline get combined with each other and they form the dimeric species. What is meant by dimeric species? Dimer means two monomeric unit, two monomers joined by a bond, that is called as dimeric species. So sometimes this protonated form of doxycycline get converted into the dimeric species due to self association at certain pH. Next one is the partition coefficient. If you see this picture, in this picture there is N-octanol and the water. In partition coefficient, we can find out how much amount of drug get solubilized in oil part and how much amount of drug is present in how much amount of drug is solubilized in the water phase. So naturally our body is consisting of oil phase and the water phase. So mostly if your drug requires to cross the lipid membrane, it must be having high lipid solubility, because if the drug is if the drug is having more affinity towards the water phase, then this type of drugs will not be easily absorbed from the lipidic membrane of our absorption membrane. So that's why your drug must be having maximum solubility in the oil phase, because our skin or our absorption part of our GIT, it mostly contain the lipid membrane, lipid bilayer. So if the drug want to cross this lipid bilayer, your drug must be having lipid solubility, and that's why firstly we have to find out this lipid solubility of the drug by means of partition coefficient. So by means of this method, we comes to know how much amount of drug is having affinity towards the oil phase and what proportion of drug is having affinity towards the water phase. So simply in this funnel you have to take same proportion of oil phase and water phase. Oil phase is N-octanol, and in this funnel you have to add a little amount of drug, we can say 100 milligram of the drug, and shake this flask for about 30 minutes. So after shaking this flask for 30 minutes, if 30% of the drug is having affinity towards the water phase, then it will distribute. Sorry. So after shaking for 30 minutes, some part of the drug will get solubilized in water phase and some part of the drug will get solubilized in the oil phase, that is the N-octanol. Then simply by means of titration method, we can find out how much amount of drug concentration present in both the phases. And once you find out the drug concentration in oil phase and drug concentration in water phase, by using this formula, that is capital P O by W, that is equal to concentration of drug in oil phase divided by concentration of drug in water phase. So simply by putting the values in this formula, you can calculate the partition coefficient. And if the partition coefficient values are more, then it is said to be having more affinity towards the oil phase, and we can say that this type of drug will be rapidly absorbed from your absorption area. This is all about the partition coefficient. Next is the chemical properties of the drugs. Study of chemical properties of the drugs and their influence on the formulation and the stability of the drug product. So which chemical properties we have to study, and why these chemical properties we have to study is because these chemical properties are having influence on the uh, influence on the drug product. Just chemical properties, let us see one by one. So hydrolysis, oxidation, reduction, racemization, polymerization. So these are the various chemical properties which can affect the stability of your formulation. Goal of understanding the chemical properties. Why we have to study these chemical properties? For initial investigation on the chemical properties. Initial investigation the chemical properties. Then knowledge about the stability of drug candidate in solid and liquid state. In which state your drug will be more stable, that we will comes to know by studying these chemical properties. Some type of drugs are more stable in solid form, whether some type of drugs are stable in the liquid form. Suppose your drug undergoes hydrolytic reaction. Suppose drug get unstable in presence of the water molecule. Then we can say that this type of drug will be unstable in liquid state. So it is better to keep it in the solid state. So this we can conclude only after the study of chemical properties. Then shelf life of the marketed product or the stability of formulation. Shelf life of the marketed product means uh, uh, when you are going to purchase some medicines from the medical store, every medical product is having some expiry. It is stable, or we can say that it is having expiry of up to 2 year. Then it is expiry means what? It is the shelf life of that product. If some tablet is suppose today I brought some tablets, paracetamol tablets, and on that strip it is written that this tablet will expire after 2023 December. 2023 December, it means that it is the shelf life of that product. So up to December 2023, only 90% of the drug will be present in that tablet. Suppose today we are going to prepare a tablet of 100 milligram. So after 2 year, instead of 100 milligram, only 90 milligram of the drug will present in that tablet. Whereas the 10% or the 10 milligram of the drug will get dissociated, or it get degraded because of the environmental factors like temperature or maybe pH or light. So because of this environmental factor, your drug is under degradation. So that's why shelf life must be written on every medical product. So this shelf life we can calculate from the chemical properties of drug product. Then rate of degradation and path of degradation. So this can also calculated by means of the chemical properties. Rate of degradation. Suppose some drugs are stable only in the refrigerator. If you remove this medicinal product from the refrigerator, the rate of degradation will goes on increasing. Why the rate of degradation increases? Because of the temperature. There is one phenomenon. After increase in 1 degree Celsius, it doubles the rate of reaction. After increase in 1 degree Celsius, every 1 degree Celsius, the rate of reaction get double. Means if the product is stable up to 2 year in your refrigerator, now once you keep it in the room temperature, now the expiry may becomes 1 year. So in this way, rate of reaction get doubles after increase in temperature. So in this way, by means of chemical properties, we can conclude the rate of degradation and the path of degradation. Path of degradation means what is the exact factor which is affecting the degradation. It may be affected by means of the sunlight, it may be affected by means of the room temperature, or any other factor. Then stability with temperature, pH, light, and the oxygen, as we discussed. Then let us start with the first chemical reaction, that is hydrolysis. What is meant by hydrolysis? Hydro means water and the lysis means breakdown. So breakdown of any drug compound in presence of the water is called as the hydrolysis. When a drug molecule attacked by the water to yield a breakdown product, that is called as hydrolysis. Means breakdown in presence of water, that is called as hydrolysis, and breakdown in presence of other than water, then it is called as solvolysis. Means breakdown of any other solvent except water. So susceptible to hydrolytic processes, the compounds are esters, amides, lactones, and the lactams. So these are the main drug products which are affected by the hydrolytic processes. So whatever the there are thousands of the drug which are currently available in the market. Some of the drug product may contain ester group, some drug product may contain amide, some drug may contain lactones and lactams. So these drugs specifically undergoes hydrolytic reaction. Once they comes in contact with the water, they undergoes hydrolysis and they get breakdown and forms byproducts. For example, some anesthetics, antibiotics, vitamins, and the barbiturates 1. So these are the examples of some drugs which specifically undergoes the hydrolytic reaction. Next one is the ester hydrolysis. How the ester undergoes hydrolysis? So ester in presence of water undergoes hydrolysis and it forms acid and alcohol. Involves the rupture of covalent bond between the carbon atom and an oxygen atom. So there is breakdown of bond in between the carbon and oxygen and the ester get converted into acid and alcohol. There are some catalysts also which can affect the hydrolysis reaction. That is the polar nature of some minerals, acids, alkalis, certain enzymes that are capable of supplying the hydrogen and OH negative ions. Some acid and alkalis also catalyze the hydrolysis. So this is the reaction of ester hydrolysis. So you can see here. So when an ester get in contact with the water, it is attacked by the hydrogen H plus ion, and the ester get easily converted into a carboxylic acid and also an alcohol. So in this way there is breakdown of the ester into an acid and alcohol. So kinetic study of hydrolysis of the aspirin was done in various buffer solution, and it is observed that the aspirin is most stable at the pH 2.4, and at pH 5 to 7 degradation is pH independent, and above pH 10 the stability decreases with the increase in pH. So aspirin is most stable at pH 2.4. Means what? At less pH there is less number of hydrogen ion concentration. If the pH is very less, at that pH the hydrogen ion concentration will be very less and your aspirin will remain stable. This is the structure of aspirin. So in presence of water it undergoes hydrolysis and get converted into an acid and the alcohol. So at least pH there is less number of hydrogen ions which are responsible for the hydrolysis, and as the pH goes on increasing, such as pH 10, the stability decreases. Why the stability decreases? Because there is increase in hydrogen ion concentration with the increase in pH. So this is an example of aspirin which undergoes the hydrolytic reaction. Now let us see the conditions that catalyze the breakdown. First one is the presence of hydroxyl ion, then presence of hydride ion, divalent ion, heat, light, then ionic hydrolysis, solution polarity and ionic strain, high drug concentration. So these are all the factors which are responsible for the hydrolytic reaction. Now, how we can prevent the hydrolysis? How we can take care of the drug product during the process? First is the pH adjustment. First, we have to see at what pH your drug is most stable. As we have seen in the example of aspirin, it is most stable at pH 2.4. So we have to find out this type of pH condition at which your drug is most stable. And as the pH goes on increasing or decreasing, then your drug product may undergoes hydrolysis. So first priority is to find out the pH, stable pH, at which your drug will remains stable and it will not undergoes hydrolysis. Formulate the drug solution close to its pH optimum stability, as we have discussed. Then addition of water miscible solvent in the formulation, as water is mainly responsible for the hydrolysis. In presence of water your drug undergoes hydrolysis. So instead of water we can use another supplementary solvent which are water miscible. So instead of water, we can use the another solvents. Then buffer concentration, optimum buffer concentration. What is the significance of adding buffer? Because this buffer will resist the change in pH, and that's why buffers are important in maintaining the stability of your preparation. Then addition of surfactant. Surfactants are also important. Then store with the desiccants. Desiccants means sometime you might have been observed that along with some products, whether it may be a mobile phone or any laptop, some desiccator bags are available in the uh, that packages, so that this desiccator will absorbs the moisture present in the environment and keep your product safe. So in the same way, this type of desiccants are also provided with the drug product. Suppose you are going to purchase one bottle of some tablets. So along with the tablet in that bottle, there will be a small pouch of desiccants, and this desiccant will prevent the hydrolysis of your tablet, which will contain the drug product. Then by use of the complexing agent. So complexing agents are also useful in maintaining the or to prevention of the hydrolysis. Then oxidation reduction reaction, the second most common way. For example, steroids, vitamins, and antibiotics. These are mainly undergoes the oxidation reaction. This is mediated by the free radicals or by means of molecular oxygen. So this is the most common way of oxidative reaction. You know this from your class 12, that by addition of oxygen, your drug product undergoes oxidation process. So along with the addition of oxygen, the removal of electron or the donation of electron. By donating the electron, again your drug may undergoes oxidation or by means of removal of hydrogen. So these are various ways of oxidation. Complex oxidative process, and it is sensitive towards the trace metal and other impurities. So as we have discussed, the drug product can undergo oxidation by donating the electron. So if there are presence of some metals which can accept the electron, then in that case your drug may undergoes oxidation. Then redox reaction involves either transfer of oxygen or hydrogen atoms or by means of transfer of electrons. It is a very common pathway for drug degradation in both liquids and solid formulation. Means both liquid and solid dosage form can undergo oxidation. And oxidation occurs in two ways. First, either by means of auto-oxidation or by means of free radical chain reaction. The functional group having the high susceptibility towards the oxidation. Those drugs which contains the alkene substituted aromatic groups like phenols, toluenes, ethers, amines. So if your drug product, if your drug contain this type of uh, groups, functional groups, then there are most chances for the oxidative reaction. Then oxidation uh, mainly occurs in presence of the oxygen, and it can be initiated or it can be the rate of reaction can be increased by means of the presence of heat, light, or the trace metal ion that can produce the free radicals. And these radicals propagate the oxidation reaction, which proceeds until inhibitor destroy the radical and until side reaction eventually break the chain. For example, dopamine. Substance is oxidized when an electron removed from it, or gain an electronegative atoms or the radical, or losses of electropositive atoms or the radicals. Then by means of addition of oxygen or removal of hydrogen, and most common is the auto-oxidation, means the free radical chain process. It also involves the homolytic bond fusion of the covalent bond, and each atom retains one of the electron of uh, original covalent bond. So these are the various ways by means of which your drug product can undergoes oxidation. Just like by means of removal of electron, by means of electronegative atoms or the radical, by means of addition of oxygen or removal of hydrogen. Next is the racemization. What is meant by racemization? It is an event where optically active molecule become inactive without any change in molecular composition. Racemization means what? Just, if you see the chemical structure, this is the structure of L-adrenaline and this is D-adrenaline. L and D stands for levorotatory and dextrorotatory. If you see the structure, there is no change. But because of racemization, there is change in position of hydroxyl ion. Levorotatory and dextrorotatory. These are the two forms of adrenaline. And in racemization, optically active molecules become inactive without any change in molecular composition. Molecular composition is same, but because of change in their racemization or change in the optical activity, it may lost its activity. Suppose L-adrenaline is active in nature and D-adrenaline is not active, but the chemical structure is same. There is no difference. But just because of change in optical activity, your compound may become inactive. So that's why it is also important to know the racemization. Such study is of highest importance when recipic mixture form is used. For example, racemization leads to either a loss of pharmacological action or toxic effect, or may be enhanced by the several fold. For example, L-adrenaline is 15 to 20 times more active than dextroform. As you can see in this image, L-adrenaline is 15 to 20 times more active as compared to D-adrenaline. Although the chemical structure is same, but they are having the different optical activity. So that's why optical activity is very important. Racemization is mostly affected by conditions like pH, type of solvent, presence of light, and the temperature. So, in presence of this environmental condition, pH, light, temperature, or by means of any solvent. So, in presence of this, sometimes this L-adrenaline may get converted into D-adrenaline. So, we have to take care of that. This L-adrenaline should never get converted into D-adrenaline. So main goal is to study is to design the optimum condition in which the molecule remains stable. So we have to find out best environmental condition at which the L-adrenaline never get converted into the D-adrenaline. So this is all about